If you've ever wondered how to use a matcha whisk, you've come to the right place. In this video, we're going to learn what the matcha bamboo whisk is, what the benefits of it are, and how to use it. We'll also show you the proper techniques for whisking matcha so that you can prepare your own beautiful bowls of ceremonial matcha at home. Before we get started, it would really mean a lot to us if you could subscribe to the YouTube channel and like this video to see more like it in the future. If you'd prefer to read about this topic, we have a great blog article all about it, and we can put the link in the description below. Without further ado, let's get started. So how do you use a matcha whisk? The question of how to use a matcha whisk can be answered in 4 simple steps. We're going to give you a quick outline of how to prepare your matcha whisk, how to use the matcha bamboo whisk, and how to clean it afterwards. Let's get whisking. Step 1. Soak your matcha bamboo whisk in water. Before you start whisking matcha, you will want to prepare your bamboo whisk. This technique is used in the Japanese tea ceremony, but it's also important when it comes to home use. First, fill up a cup of warm water and put your matcha whisk inside of it. Let the whisk sit inside the water for about 1 minute and then it's ready to use. The reason this is important is because it makes the whisk more flexible. The small bristles on the bamboo matcha whisk are incredibly fragile, particularly when dry. When you soak the bamboo in water, it makes the bristles more pliable and less likely to break. Step 2. Start whisking the matcha in an M and W shape. After we learn how to prepare the whisk, it's time to use the matcha whisk. Once the water and matcha powder have been mixed together, you can put your matcha whisk into the water and begin to gently scrape off the sides and the bottom of the tea bowl. This will ensure that all the tea has been mixed evenly into the water. Once you've finished scraping, you can then begin the whisking. For this, you will want to follow a rapid zigzag motion using mostly your wrist. These small movements may be difficult at first, but you will master them over time. An experienced tea master will be able to whisk the matcha very quickly while barely moving their arm. The key is all in the wrist. Step 4. Clean the matcha whisk. After you're done whisking matcha, it's time to clean your matcha whisk. It is important to clean off the chasen before you put it back in the matcha whisk holder so it doesn't grow mold or mildew. All you have to do is rinse the bamboo matcha whisk in water, but occasionally what you may want to do is use a toothbrush to clean off some of the staining in between the bristles. When your whisk has been rinsed off, you're ready to continue to the next step. Step 4. Put it back in the matcha whisk holder and let it dry. Now you're ready to put the matcha whisk back in the matcha whisk holder and let it dry. This is really important when it comes to retaining the proper shape of the matcha whisk and also ensuring that it doesn't grow mold. If you don't have a matcha whisk holder, make sure that you put the matcha whisk upside down with the bristles up in the air. This is the best way for it to dry, and it also allows it to maintain its shape. How do you dry a matcha whisk? The matcha whisk pretty much dries on its own. It just needs to be in the right circumstances. Make sure it has some breathing room, i.e. not in a container or a zipped bag, and keep it in a drier place. You can blot it with a dry cloth or paper towel after rinsing, but just don't apply too much pressure on the bristles. What exactly is the matcha bamboo whisk? The matcha whisk is the best tool when it comes to whisking matcha tea. This whisk is made out of a single piece of bamboo, and the 80 to 100 small bristles are individually carved in careful detail. If you look at the handle of the matcha whisk, you can see a resemblance with a stalk of bamboo. As you go up the length of the whisk, you will see how the bamboo is split and divided many times over. Why do we use a bamboo matcha whisk? Even though the matcha bamboo whisk seems to be old-fashioned, nothing does a better job at whisking matcha. With the matcha tea, you really want a light green foam on top of the tea with smaller bubbles. This can only be accomplished by whisking the tea rapidly and creating these small bubbles. The foam is not just for looks, it also gives the matcha a smoother and creamier taste. This makes the tea almost like a latte, but without any milk or sugar. The bamboo matcha whisk appears to be a much better tool when compared to the metal whisk. What are some alternatives to the matcha whisk? First, we have the milk frother. The milk frother might be the best substitute for the matcha whisk, but it can be just as expensive. The milk frother is usually battery operated and it spins around to aerate different drinks. Number 2, we have the mason jar or bottle. The mason jar can actually be a good alternative to the matcha whisk if your priority is creating that foam. A major downside to this method is that it tends to produce a lot of clumps, which can make the matcha really unenjoyable. This makes the sifting step even more important when it comes to preparing your matcha. Number 3, we have the blender. Most people would think that the blender makes the matcha foam up immediately, but it's still actually quite hard to produce the right amount of foam in the matcha tea. When we tried using a blender in one of our tea experiments, we also found that there were a lot of clumps in the tea. We'll put the link to that video here. Number 4, we have the metal whisk. The metal bristles of the kitchen whisk slice through the water without actually aerating the tea, making it much less effective compared to the bamboo matcha whisk. With enough sheer willpower, you can use the metal whisk to make foam on a matcha, but it will be much more difficult. Number 5, we have the fork. While the fork can be used to mix up matcha in a pinch, it really will not work as a long-term solution. If you're really desperate, you can use the fork to mix up the matcha, but it's not recommended. Where can you shop for a matcha bamboo whisk? If you're looking for a matcha bamboo whisk of your very own, you can get one for free when you sign up for our monthly matcha club. With the monthly matcha club, not only do you get to try some of our best organically grown matcha teas from all over Japan, but you can also save 16% or more. We'll even give you all the tools you need to prepare a great bowl of matcha tea, like the bamboo matcha whisk and the bamboo matcha spoon. If you're not interested in signing up for the monthly matcha club, you can also get the bamboo matcha whisk in a few of our matcha tea bundles. This is another great way to save money on all the tools you need to prepare matcha tea. Now that you know how to use the matcha whisk, you should be all set to begin your journey into the world of matcha tea. We hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Again, it would really mean a lot to us if you could subscribe to our YouTube channel and like this video to see more like it in the future. Until then, we'll see you next time.